Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. My name is Anna Kalczyńska. An act of state terrorism, this was the stark characterization by Radosław Sikorski, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, regarding the recent sabotage of a vital public rail line. In response, Polish security services have detained multiple individuals as part of the ongoing investigation, but the timing and location of this incident are deeply concerning. The Lublin route is essential for both domestic travel and humanitarian aid headed to Ukraine. Furthermore, the foreign minister condemned the president and the opposition for their misguided claims, as he said that the European Union poses a greater threat than Russia at such a critical juncture. Now, more than ever, unity and clarity of purpose are essential in confronting the real dangers we face, says Sikorski. Joining us to discuss the latest events in Poland is Jowanka Jakubek-Lalik, Associate Professor at Law, Faculty of Law and Administration, University of Warsaw. Good evening, madam, and thank you for being with us.
Good evening.
So let us start with this unfortunate incident, or a hybrid attack, or the act of state terrorism, as Minister Sikorski says. We're not talking about a public rail, but a corridor, which is essential route to Ukraine. So what is the purpose of Russia here, you think? Is it that the Russians are trying to play on eroding public support for Ukraine?
Well, of course, these acts are currently under investigation, and the public prosecution needs to investigate deeply what exactly happened and who is responsible. We have some preliminary findings, but for sure there is a need to deeply investigate about the root causes of the situation and the people who are responsible. Because currently what we know, we have 2 citizens of Ukraine who are behind those attacks. However, we also need to understand that Russian services are very active in Ukraine, and also many people who are holding Ukrainian passport are not actually Ukrainians when it comes to their beliefs and their ethnic or national identity. So this is also very important to be stated. What can be behind those attacks? Of course, Russia is using those kind of hybrid threats, hybrid actions, but also there is a huge disinformation campaign behind those activities, and the kind of ultimate purpose of those activities are to divide the society, are to also cause distrust in public authorities, in the safety and security of the country. So in my view, this is what's really at stake here.
Right, so Poland has demanded extradition of those individuals. Can you imagine now a trial which is going to attract public attention, definitely? Is Russia also likely to deepen divisions and to play on that ground as well?
Social media platforms are used for that purpose. Also, the huge part of Russian public administration are currently devoted to actually working on sustaining those kind of divisions, or actually even fueling those divisions in EU member states. So we can see that a lot of disinformation is uploaded to the social media platforms. Also, there are some bots who are fueling the exchanges and debates. So Polish authorities need to be very careful when it comes to monitoring the situation, also responding to those kind of disinformation campaigns. But of course, as we can see, everything that can be used against the alliance of Poland and Ukraine, it is used for the benefit of Russia. So for sure, we can also see in this situation that trying to attack Polish infrastructure, also the people who are holding Ukrainian passports are used for this situation, because it can potentially trigger some anti-Ukrainian sentiment in the society. So we must be really careful and also explain that the mechanism, the logic behind those kind of actions is totally different.
Absolutely, especially that it amounts to a certain trust that
Yes.
the government enjoys, right, publicly. Anyway, given the strategic importance of this Lublin rail route, both, as we mentioned, for domestic use and purposes, but also for humanitarian aid to Ukraine and for transport as well, What vulnerabilities does it reveal about Polish infrastructure?
Well, there is no 100% safety and security when it comes to infrastructure, and we can see that in many European Union countries. And also we can see that in Denmark, we can see that in Baltic states, also when it comes to this kind of drones who are entering the airspace of different countries and mysteriously appear around, for example, the airports. So caution needs to be taken everywhere and at every time. But of course, what we need to pay attention now is how the infrastructure is operating and all the vulnerabilities, all the challenging aspects of the Polish infrastructure to provide safety of the passengers, to provide safety of all the people who are using infrastructure. But it's not only about railways, it's about water management, it's about waste management, it's about electricity management. So a lot of caution needs to be taken now, especially that using modern technologies like Internet of Things, like AI also, with managing this infrastructure, they also possess even more vulnerabilities because they can be attacked also from the outside of the country. So those systems also need to be very carefully monitored.
Minister of Defense Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz has announced Operation Horizon, supervising and overseeing the whole infrastructure, but it's obviously always prone to flaws, as we know, right? So it simply cannot be overseen totally and in every single aspect.
But I think also the citizens need to be cautious and they need to pay attention to any threats they can see, any kind of suspicious activities around infrastructure, whatever is intriguing, whatever is not actually in line with the everyday activities need to be reported and very seriously treated.
Right. So now let's pass to the situation internally, domestically. As we know, it of course translates into our internal debate. Yesterday, Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski addressed Polish Parliament, and he said that Russia will have to face consequences for its action, among others. But also he criticized political actors who claim that EU poses a greater threat than Russia. So how such internal narratives impact national security, because this is the main question right now.
Definitely these kind of different narratives are very dangerous, but what I need to underline is that we have the principle of dual executive in Polish constitution. However, it is very clear about that the government, the Council of Ministers, not the President, is formulating and conducting the foreign policy. So all the directions of foreign policy are undertaken and guided by the Council of Ministers, by the Polish government. President is representing the country internally and abroad. However, he needs to be in line with the statements and policies of the government. He does not have any independent power to shape foreign policy, which means that any kind of statements that he makes actually need to be in line with what Polish government is declaring. And this is of fundamental importance because it's not only based on the constitutional principle of the cooperation of the public authorities. This is actually something that they are obliged to do according to the Polish constitution. But this is also in accordance with the EU law and NATO doctrine, which actually treats credibility and unity as strategic assets, meaning that the external voice of our country, of Poland, needs to be unified. It cannot be divided into different doctrines. And analyzing Polish foreign policy, it is very clear that in the European Union, in Western Europe, we have friends, we have allies. We are part of the EU, which is an organization which creates a lot of opportunities for Poland, also in terms of security. And any kind of situations that we had in the past, including the intrusion of the drones, we could see how immediately our European allies reacted to that. So seeing European Union, seeing Germany or France as threats is very misguided and very dangerous concept, because we can see that any dangerous activities come from the East, not from the West.
Right. I think the Constitution itself provided that there is no competition between those
Definitely.
bodies, the President and the Council of Ministers, right? Especially in
there is
in a matter
obligation
of
for cooperation
policy.
between them. Yes,
exactly. But here we see that it's not always complementary, but rather we see a rivalry between those two men at present, right? Unfortunate, but this is the situation. And going back also to the response towards Russia, Sikorski says that Russia will face consequences other than diplomatic, beyond diplomatic measures. So what are the options that are in possession of Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Prime Minister, the President?
Well,
what can we do to deter Russia?
In accordance to the law, especially diplomatic law, what Polish authorities could do is to respond by closing one of the consulates, and that is what
happened already.
This is the diplomatic language of tightening the relations, of withdrawing from the relations. And also consulates are not only diplomatic posts, but also they might be used as a kind of dual posts. So they need to be very carefully monitored indeed.
So the last consulate in Russia, in Irkutsk, has also been closed.
That's
Russia
the response from the Russian authorities, yes.
Retaliatory measure. The Russians claim that relationships with Poland have just collapsed. We also witnessed the attack today on Sunday, right, at Polish ambassador to Moscow. So what's the next step? How can these relations be somehow eased or worked upon?
Well, I would say that Poland should react based on agreement with our allies. We are part of the European Union, we are part of NATO, and this kind of situations needs to be discussed and agreed with our allies.
And isn't it a matter of bilateral relations after all?
Yes, yes. However, as we are part of these alliances, and this actually addresses the issues which are agreed based on the treaties, they should be also discussed with our allies, and this kind of responses should be agreed upon with our allies. But what we can see is that unfortunately the activities which are kind of dangerous for our security, for our safety, they are actually increasing. So there needs to be a response which is agreed with our allies, because as a state we have actually quite limited options, because if we run out of the diplomatic options, then we are entering a different kind of dialogue and different kind of sets of rules.
As we speak, there's a meeting of Minister of Foreign Affairs in Brussels. We are awaiting the press conference.
Exactly.
So we shall see what happens next. Thank you so much, Jowanka Jakubek-Lalik, for taking the time tonight. And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned to TVP World.